So this picture was taken in the Sousa group, which is a very large family, and this photo shows a silverback Korea with one of his young sons, and it was great place for photographing. It was kind of a natural amphitheater within the forest, so it allowed light in. It was almost like being at a family reunion with some distant Harrier cousins. There were mothers with babies, there were adolescent gorillas playing, and there was the silverback Korea with this young son, and Korea was just kind of relaxing. He had his hands behind his head for a moment, and the son was crawling up on his belly, bouncing around. And for just a moment, they both turned and looked at me, and that's when I got this picture, which is still probably my favorite just plain mountain gorilla picture that I've ever taken. This photo was taken on a health monitoring visit in windy and Impenetrable National Park with Dr. Fred, and there are 3 youngsters in this group that were playing in a tree, and this little guy was beating his chest at me, but when it was frozen in the picture, it almost looks like he has his hand over his heart, and I found that very touching, and also just amazing, again, to be in their midst and have these little family moments played out right in front of me. This photo shows Mukunda, who is a troublesome lone silverback from Virunga National Park. He witnessed his family being murdered in 2007 during the gorilla massacres, and ever since then he's had a problem with leaving the park and going out into human habitation. In this particular instance, he traveled about 10 kilometers outside of the park to the village of Kibumba, and despite there being hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more people on this village, he was totally unafraid. He was going to the market, eating vegetables. He was standing outside people's homes, and the national park warden called the gorilla doctors and said, "The people are going to kill him if you don't come and help." So the gorilla doctors came to anesthetize Mukunda and carry him back to the forest. And it was really one of the most amazing photographic days of my life, to have this huge wild animal in a human setting surrounded by hundreds of people. We ended up being able to successfully dart him, and in this particular photo it shows him right after he's been darted, sitting on a promontory surrounded by this sea of people, and it really, for me, illustrates the kind of classic human-wildlife conflict in Africa that is one of the biggest challenges with conservation these days. This is Mukunda after he's been carried back into the forest, back into Virunga National Park. And the gorilla doctors and some of the park rangers from Virunga National Park are standing around. They're collecting some blood samples and doing a few other quick tests before waking him up. When we get a mountain gorilla anesthetized, it's always a unique opportunity to get blood and other samples that we can use to help study the health of the population. And I like this photo because it shows the tremendous teamwork involved between the gorilla doctors and the national park authorities where we work. We really couldn't do our job without them. This photo shows Damasan. He's a ranger from the Rwanda Development Board, and he and his team have just done an anti-poaching sweep, and they turned up hundreds of snares over this 2 or 3 day trip. And he's holding about 80 snares in one hand, so it goes to show what a problem poaching is in this national park and the importance of these guys doing their anti-poaching trips. It's important to realize that the snares aren't set for gorillas; they're set for antelope because the people surrounding the national parks are very poor and are looking for food. But unfortunately, the gorillas get caught and can sometimes die. So we really value the anti-poaching work done by these national park authorities. This photo shows MGVP's predict doctor, Dr. Julius Nziza, looking at a bat. MGVP has a project where we're looking for emerging infectious disease which can move from wildlife to people. And we're looking around the national parks at animals like bats, monkeys, mice, and taking blood and saliva samples, looking for the next Ebola or the next other disease that could possibly jump to humans. This project is being funded by USAID, and it's part of a big multi-step worldwide program to help get a handle on infectious disease around the world. This photo shows the orphan Jingala right after she was removed from a box where she was kept by poachers. Jingala is a Grauer's gorilla from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and unfortunately this particular species of gorilla is targeted by poachers frequently for the illegal pet trade. These poachers believe that they can sell baby gorillas for a lot of money on the black market. Our partners and our team work together to try to confiscate these animals. So Jingala here is one of the lucky ones, and she was brought by Dr. Eddie, one of the gorilla doctors, to Goma, to a temporary housing facility where we were able to assess her and treat her for respiratory disease before she was sent to the Grace Sanctuary in northern Congo. This photo shows Dr. Jan with Shamavu, another Grauer's gorilla orphan, after he has been confiscated from poachers by Virunga National Park rangers. This is the first time he's been out of the sack that he was kept in, and he is very traumatized. He didn't know who to trust. So Dr. Jan is reaching out to him, trying to show him that she's not going to hurt him, but he still doesn't know who to trust. These animals are so traumatized when they first come into care. Besides healing the physical wounds like rope burns and bullet wounds, there's a lot of work to be done with the mental health of the animal, because they've most likely just seen their parents killed. It requires a lot of intensive care to make sure that they don't die. This photo shows Dr. Jan holding the hand of Makunda, and he's being moved at this point from a truck to a large gurney to be carried into the forest. So she was grabbing his hands to move him into position. But I feel that the two clasped hands show what MGVP is really all about. We're about saving this species one patient at a time. And we view each gorilla as important to the genetic makeup of the whole population, which is why we put so much effort into saving each gorilla we can that finds itself in trouble. This photo shows a dancer at a cultural village in Kanigi. This village employs former poachers, people who are laying snares in the national park, to come and be performers and cultural interpreters at this historic recreation village. And it shows how tourism is really important, not just for the gorillas, but for the community. Some of these organizations provide jobs and target the people who are doing things that are harmful, and then switches things so that now they're advocates for conservation, and they're earning a lot more money, and they're educating tourists and the community about conservation.